setting go live. 1 second, that's it. YouTube is going live. Wait. Thank you. In the meantime, anyone has any brief? Did we discuss? Yeah, we did reflections last night, right? Okay, let's start now. Abhay didn't try to become a leader in the inner management of the Gaudiya Math. His spiritual master had initiated 18 sannyasis who carried out most of the preaching and leadership of the mission. Abhay was always the householder, occupied with his own business and family, never living within the matha except for brief visits. And yet he began to develop a close relationship with his spiritual master. Sometimes Abhay would go to see him at Chaitanya Math, at the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya in Mayapur. One day at the Chaitanya Math, Abhay was in the courtyard when a large poisonous snake crawled out in front of him. Abhay called out for his god brothers, but when they came, everyone simply stood looking, uncertain what to do. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta came out in the veranda of the second floor, glanced down, saw the snake, and immediately ordered, "Kill it." The boy then took a large stick and killed the snake. Prabhupada. So I thought, how is it that Guru Maharaj ordered the snake to be killed? I was a little surprised, but later on I saw this verse and then I was very glad. Modita sadhur api vrishchika sarpahatya. Even saintly persons take pleasure in the killing of a scorpion or a snake. It had remained a doubt how Guru Maharaj ordered the snake to be killed. But when I read this verse, I was very much pleased that this creature or creatures like the snakes should not be shown any mercy. Interesting, isn't it? It's very not easy to accept. So Prabhupada used to visit, Abhay used to visit his, before the Calcutta Center, he used to he used to inquire what's happening about the center and overall preaching. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had a very 18 sannyasis, core sannyasis who used to supervise the operations of Gaudiya Math. Prabhupada, naturally is not directly connected. He's not full-time neither. So he used to just never had deep access to the management leadership of the mission. And still his relationship with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was in peace. Occasionally he used to visit the Gaudiya Math, that's the headquarters of Gaudiya Math. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur started that. So this incident is showing when he saw a snake, everybody was surprised what to do. Never what to do. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur orders, kill it. And saintly person and killing. Now also it's a very, very puzzling to all of us. However, Prabhupada got that interesting how saintly persons can take pleasure in the killing of a scorpion or a snake. That's very, very amazing to hear. So creatures like the snake would not be shown any mercy. I think we will hear this incident later also sometimes. Yeah.
Bhaktisiddhanta was reputed to be so austere and so strong in argument against other philosophies that even his own disciples were cautious in approaching him if he were sitting alone or if they had no specific business with him. Yet even though Abhay's contact with him was quite limited, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta would always treat him kindly. Srila Prabhupada. Whenever I met my Guru Maharaj, he He would always treat me very affectionately. Sometimes my godbrothers would criticize because I would talk a little freely with him, and they would quote this English saying, "Fools rush in where angels fear to tread." But I would think, "Fool? Well, maybe, but that is the way I am." My Guru Maharaj was always very affectionate to me. When I offered obeisances, he used to return, "Dasosmi, I am your servant." Sometimes Srila Bhaktisiddhanta paced back and forth, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra aloud while fingering his beads. Abhay would enter the room and also chant, walking alongside his spiritual master. Once, when Abhay entered Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's room, his spiritual master was sitting on a couch, and Abhay took his seat beside him on an equal level. But then he noticed that all other disciples in the room were sitting on a lower level, at their spiritual master's feet. Abhay kept his seat, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said nothing of it. But Abhay never again sat on an equal level with the spiritual master. Summary, it talks about how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was so intelligent and so strong in argument that even his own disciples would fear being alone with him, or because they were just scared. But it explains how Abhay's contact with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was different, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would always treat him kindly. It explains how Abhay would talk freely with him, and whenever he offered obeisances to his spiritual master, the spiritual master would reply, "Dasosmi, I am your servant." And there's this one incident when Abhay entered the room of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and sat at the same level as him, whereas all the other devotees were sitting at the spiritual master's feet. But Abhay didn't move. But after that, he realized that he won't ever do that again.
Yeah, I don't know what is that. Generally, you don't sit equal to spiritual master when he's there. That's one etiquette, and also maybe this is hard to speak on this subject, but at least Prabhupada realized that I won't do it. Yeah. Yeah.
Once in a room with many disciples, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati was speaking and Abhay listening. Then an old man beside Abhay motioned to him. As Abhay leaned over to hear what the man wanted, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta suddenly spoke out in annoyance at the two apparently inattentive students. Babu, he first addressed the old man beside Abhay. Do you think you have purchased me with your 150 rupees per month donation? And then returned to Abhay. Turning to Abhay. Why don't you come up here and speak instead of me? Abhay was outwardly mortified, yet he treasured the rebuke. It was in a private meeting that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta once told Abhay of the risk he took by preaching so boldly. Srila Prabhupada, my Guru Maharaj's contribution is that he defeated the caste Goswamis, he defeated this Brahmanism, he did it the same way as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Kiba Vipra Kiba Nyasi Sudre Kene Naya Ei Krishna Tattva Veta Sei Guru Hoya. There is no consideration whether one is a sannyasi, a brahman, a sudra, or a grihastha. No, anyone who knows the science of Krishna, he is all right. He is Goswami and he is Brahmana.
So it's a very nice, how it's not a joke to deal with familiarity and create disturbance. When I have the session, we see people without proper etiquette. While spiritual master is speaking and Krishna Katha is going on, people's phone rings, they will talk, they will be distracted. Somebody starts speaking to somebody else, so this incident was observed as Prabhupada had experienced that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati didn't like. He addressed this. Always, just because you give some donation doesn't mean that you can speak, you can create distraction. He challenged Prabhupada also, okay, come and you speak. Yeah. So Prabhupada took it as this rebuke as a treasure. He learned that lesson, not negatively. And it was in a private meeting that Bhaktisiddhanta told Abhay that he took risk of preaching boldly, because what is boldly means that, it was only a property of caste Brahmins in the past, in Vaishnavism. So he fought, he brought this as a no. Ye Krishna Tattvaveta say Guru hoy. Whoever knows the science of Krishna, he can be good. It's not just it's limited. That's why we all could come. AJ, you please read.
But no one else taught that since Lord Chaitanya. This was my Guru Maharaj's contribution. And for this reason, he had to face so many vehement protests from these Brahmana caste Goswamis. Once they conspired to kill him, my Guru Maharaj told me personally. By his grace, when we used to meet alone, he used to talk about so many things. He was so kind that he used to talk with me, and he personally told me that these people, they wanted to kill him. They collected 25,000 rupees and went to bribe the police officer in charge of the area, saying, "You take these 25,000 rupees. We shall do something against Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and you don't take any steps." He could understand that they wanted to kill him. So the police officer, frankly, came to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Of course, we accept bribes and we indulge in such things, but not for a sadhu, not for a saintly person. I cannot dare. So the police officer refused and said to my Guru Maharaj, "You take care. This is the position." So vehemently they protested. So so essentially, right, and it continues down from, it's linked back to that previous the previous verse, but he was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was essentially rocking the boat, right? The Brahmana caste had a good thing going, and he comes in and starts teaching like, hey, you don't need to be, it doesn't matter what caste, right? You could be any of these, and learn the science of Krishna consciousness, to the point where he rocked the boat so much that they were going to kill him, and but due to his position as a sadhu, the police clued him in on it and essentially saved his life. But I do get a kick out of the line. Yeah, we do take bribes. We do accept bribes, but not now.
Right. He was favorable, he was well-wished of, and that's a good thing he did. So many in Gaudiya Vaishnava, so many devotees have taken a lot of risk in propagating this movement. And one interesting thing is, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had looks like immense faith on Prabhupada. Otherwise, you won't reveal one's mind very easily, mind and heart. Even though his spiritual master is so powerful, but no one can dare to meet him. But Prabhupada could approach very freely, and he himself would reveal, means the lot of faith and trust in him. Saikiran Prabhu.
But he liked boldness in his disciples. Abhay heard of an occasion when one of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's disciples had been very outspoken at a public meeting and had denounced a highly regarded Mayavadi monk as a foolish priest. The remark had caused a disruption at the meeting, and some of the disciples reported the incident to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, thinking he would be displeased that his disciple had caused a disturbance. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was pleased and remarked, "He has done well." His displeasure occurred rather when he heard of someone's compromise. Srila Prabhupada, when my Guru Maharaj was present, even big scholars were afraid to talk with even his beginning students. My Guru Maharaj was called living encyclopedia. He could talk with anyone on any subject. He was so learned and no compromise. So-called saints, avatars, yogis, everyone who was false was an enemy to my Guru Maharaj. He never compromised. Some God brothers complained that this preaching was a chopping technique and it would not be successful, but those who criticized him fell down. So here we read about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur likes boldness in his disciples. On one occasion, one of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's disciples had spoken against Mayavadi monk as a foolish priest. So that remark had caused a disruption, and some disciples reported the instance to Bhaktisiddhanta. They thought that he would be displeased with them, but Srila Bhaktisiddhanta appreciated him, and Srila Prabhupada said that Guru Maharaj was like he's like a Simha Guru. So basically, even big scholars were afraid to talk with him, and he would not compromise. Like anyone who were false, they were an enemy to Guru Maharaj. Some God brothers complained that his preaching was a chopping technique and it would be successful, but those who criticized him fell down.
So he was a living encyclopedia. He was living encyclopedia. That's see, here is the thing. Many of you, when you read Prabhupada's book, he's straightforward. He writes rascal in his lectures, everything. However, he has taken a lot of humble position, but because our movement is, to speak the truth at the same time appropriately. But that time situation was very different. Nowadays we are taught in such a way that we don't use any words. I don't know good or bad, because time has changed, people's tolerance level changed, and so many things, but we don't use in our preaching much. But for them, they have already paved up, to pave the path, there are two things. One is establishing, things you need to really fight. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also brought revolution. And for us, we are just serving at this time. We don't go against, however, we try to give to others, Krishna consciousness in a humble way. So time situation has changed. Yeah. Who is next? Samath is reading or Mata is reading?
Yeah, Samath is reading.
Whenever Srila Bhaktivedanta, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was known as Simha Lion Guru. On occasion when he saw he knew to be a proponent of impersonalism, he would call that person over and challenge. Why are you cheating the people with Mayavadi philosophy? He would often tell his disciples not to compromise. Why should you go flatter? He would say. You should speak the plain truth without any flattery. Money will come anyway. When Srila Bhaktisiddhanta wrote or spoke the Vaishnava philosophy, he was compromising. The conclusion was according to the Shastra and the logic strong, but sometimes Abhay would hear his spiritual master express the eternal teachings in a unique way that Abhay knew he would never forget. Don't try to see God, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta would say, but act in such a way that God sees you. So it describes that Bhaktisiddhanta, like, he was known as Sima or Lion Guru, and then in one occasion he saw someone to be proponent of impersonalism, and then like he would call the person over and challenge him, and he would ask him, why are you cheating the people with Mayavadi philosophy? And he would also sometimes tell his disciples not to compromise. And then whenever Srila Bhaktivedanta Siddhanta wrote or spoke the Vaishnava philosophy, he was always compromising, and the conclusion was according to Shastra and then the logic strong. and then sometimes in spiritual, Abhay would hear his spiritual master express the eternal teachings in a unique way that he knew he would never forget it. And then and it was, don't try to see God, he would say, but act in such a way that God sees you.
Quick.
Srila Bhaktisiddhanta condemned temple proprietors who made a business of showing the deity for a living. To be a sweeper in the street was more honorable, he said. He coined a Bengali phrase, Salagram Dwara Badam Banga. The priests are taking the Salagrama deity as a stone for cracking nuts. In other words, if a person shows the Salagrama form of the Lord or any form of the deity simply with a view to make money, then he is seeing the deity not as the Lord but as a stone, a means for earning his livelihood. Abhay had the opportunity to see his spiritual master deal with the nationalist Subhas Chandra Bose, who had been Abhay's schoolmate at Scottish Churches College. Bose had come in a somewhat critical mood, concerned about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's recruiting young men into religious life.
You want to say from? Okay, you can say.
You go ahead, Prabhu, please.
This is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has been very straight. Sometimes you go round in to compromise, but he didn't want to compromise. Bad is bad, because sometimes people attitude is treating the deity as a fundraising or collecting donations for the self business. Many people you see, you have to be very careful. And that's why he says Salagram date is, as a stone for cracking nuts. Oh no, that's the intention you display so that somebody will give some money. So he says that it's better to be a sweeper in the street who is more honorable than you taking like this position and try to raise funds by the name of God for your own maintenance. So he said, what is his name? Subhash Chandra Bose is Abhay's senior, right? 1 year senior. It seems like he was concerned because Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati is recruiting the young men for religious organization. It looks like he was not at all understanding the purpose behind it. You see, right now people see you will have criticisms when say, oh, you're taking all this IIT. When ISKCON goes and preaches to IIT students, and people are concerned, oh, you're going and taking all these people, you're making them devotees. Biggest concern. Now Subhash Chandra Bose has his own agenda to bring the freedom to the country. Anyway, so Pranath, you can go ahead.
Hi Krishna. Srila Prabhupada, Subhash Chandra Bose came to my Guru Maharaj and said, so many people you have captured, they are not doing nothing for nationalism. My Guru Maharaj replied, well, for your national propaganda, you require very strong men. But these people are very weak. You can see they are very skinny. So don't put your glance upon them. Let them eat something and chant Hare Krishna. In this way, he avoided him. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta used to say that when the day came when high court judges were devotees of Krishna with Vaishnava tilak on their foreheads, then he would know that the mission of spreading Krishna consciousness was becoming successful. He said that Jesus Christ was a Satyavesh Avatara, an empowered incarnation of God. How can it be otherwise? He said he sacrificed everything for God. In his scholarly, are we stopping here, Prabhu? In his scholarly language, he declared the materialistic demeanor cannot possibly stretch to the transcendental autocrat. but sometimes in speech he phrased it in a more down-to-earth way. The mundane scholars were trying to understand the Supreme Lord by their senses, and mental speculation are like a person trying to taste the honey in a bottle by licking the outside of the bottle. Philosophy without religion, he said, is dry speculation, and religion without philosophy is sentiment and sometimes fanaticism. Uh, yes, uh, as it says in the bottom, that you sometimes have to, put things in a down to earth way to help these materialistic people or nationalistic people understand. And Bhakti Siddhanta was, helps, you know, chase away Subhash Chandra Bose, from attracting any of the devotees, There's a, um,
without going deep into argument. Then you
just
create,
taking up a position and getting rid of them. Yeah. Just as the way he put, so don't put your glance upon them. Let them eat something and chant Hare Krishna. And also, how our mission of Krishna consciousness or spreading Krishna consciousness, how can we measure, especially people at the top positions when they take up to Krishna consciousness, then when otherwise it is blind leading blind, when the leaders and in the top positions take up, then obviously their judgments are going to be in line with scriptural injunctions.
yeah.
Right. And this is also a very nice point about Jesus Christ, um, that I was just remembering when we go out for book distribution, we come across people of different faiths, especially people who are in Christianity. It's very important to understand you know uh, Christ and Christianity in relationship to Krishna, that we don't have to bump heads, that understand that who is Jesus Christ. And Prabhupada writes here, how can it be otherwise? He said he sacrificed everything for God. So he's an empowered incarnation of God. Yes. And the next part is again, there is a difference between how the body language or the words that you use, the materialistic demeanor, um, you cannot always use that, so you have to phrase things in different ways sometimes to deal uh, with materialistic people or mundane scholars, as it's written here, especially when they are trying to understand the Supreme Lord by their imperfect senses and from a materialistic view rather than from a transcendental perspective. And it is the comparison is given to, like, trying to understand or tasting a honey bottle, the outside of the honey bottle. It's also another very important point. Philosophy without religion is dry speculation, and religion without philosophy is sentiment and also sometimes lead to fanaticism, which can scare away. So that's why it's very important to understand the philosophy and keep things in context, the religion in context with the philosophy.
Thank you. Mataji there?
No, Prabhu.
Prasanti, you please.
Abhay,
One more, sorry. You remember now, I know you mentioned that the day when this judges will come with tilak, then actually we can start seeing. It looks like that is still a little far away. I don't know if any judge has. Maybe we should encourage our children to become taking the law. Yeah, go ahead.
Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said that the whole world was simply a society of cheaters and cheated. He gave the example that loose women often visit certain holy places in India with the idea of seducing the sadhus, thinking that to have a child by a sadhu is prestigious. And immoral men dress themselves as sadhus, hoping to be seduced by the cheating woman. His conclusion: a person should aspire to leave the material world and go back to Godhead, because this material world is not a fit place for a gentleman. Abhay saw that when disciples asked his spiritual master about something in the future, he never replied, "Yes, it is going to happen," or "Yes, we are going to do it." Rather, he would say, "Yes, if Krishna desires, it may be." Although in his younger years he had been an astrologer and able to predict the future, he had given it up. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was a lifetime brahmachari and was very strict about avoiding association with women. Once, Abhay was sitting with his spiritual master when another disciple was present, along with his young wife. The wife asked Srila Bhaktisiddhanta if she might speak with him privately, but he replied, "No, whatever it is, you can ask here. I cannot see you in private." Abhay was impressed by this, since Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was in his 60s and the girl could have been his granddaughter. Regardless, he would not speak with any woman alone.
Mm.
Um, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta explains the nature of the world, that how some loose women will go to the holy places and try to get child from sadhus, and there are some cheating sadhus who are looking for these loose women. So both are cheating each other. So the world behaves like this. So he explains, and he, um, even though he is 60 years old, when a young woman comes and asks to speak privately to him, he outrightly rejects. And he sets an example to others, saying that boundaries are very important with women. And he is a astrologer. He used to study astrology and he used to predict the future in his younger years, but he gave it up completely after when his students came and asked him about some future events. He will only say that if Krishna desires, it will happen. So don't depend on astrology.
Nice. This is also we are learning, and we encourage in our movement. If you see, we don't give prophecies much, because what happens is if you give prophecies, we don't build our congregation coming by giving prophecies. Now, if prophecies don't come true, people will lose faith as well. So it's a big impact on the movement. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was a great astrologer, but he won't say, because that's not if Krishna desires it may happen. He knew so many things actually. Okay, who is next? I'm sorry. Prasante. Sridhari or
Srila Bhaktisiddhanta liked to make his disciples into sannyasis. But one day, one of his sannyasa disciples was forcibly dragged away by his wife. In tears, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta lamented that he was unable to save that soul. Yet he did not speak despairingly of Krishna conscious family life. I would have sex hundreds of times if I thought that I could raise Krishna conscious children. He would send his brahmacharis out to sell the Gaudiya Math magazine and books. And even if a brahmachari were able to sell only one or two, it would please him very much. And he would exclaim, "You are so nice." In considering whether essays are worthy for publication, he would count how many times the word Krishna or Chaitanya had been used. If these holy names had been quoted sufficiently, he would say, "That's all right. This can be used." He would say in Bengali, Prana ache yar se hetu prachar. A person must have life to be a preacher. A dead man cannot preach. And some of his preachers who had gone to chant and speak reported that no one had attended their meeting. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta replied, that does not matter. The four walls will hear you. That is sufficient. Don't be disappointed. Go on chanting. Ending commenting on fact that some of his disciples had fallen away, some of the soldiers will die, he said. So here we read about how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur liked to make some of his disciples into sannyasi. But when once it so happened that one of the sannyasi disciple was like forcibly dragged away by his wife, and then so Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was very compassionate, and then he felt that he could not save that soul. And also we see how so when his brahmacharis went out for distributing Gaudiya Math magazines and books, even if a brahmachari was able to sell only one or two books, he would always encourage them that you are doing very nice. He always encouraged his brahmacharis, his disciples. And then if somebody came to him with an essay or article about Krishna consciousness, whether it is worthy for publication, he would count how many words Krishna and Chaitanya were there. If they were sufficient, then he would say that's all right, that can be used, that can be published. And then he would often say that a person with life, who has life, can be a preacher. Only a dead man cannot preach. And then when his brahmacharis went out for preaching, and then they would report back to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati saying that nobody attended their meetings. Then he would still encourage them, saying that it doesn't matter, the four walls are still hearing, so you continue, keep on chanting. And then if any of his disciples left Krishna consciousness, then he would say that some of the soldiers will die.
Very nice. This is very interesting. If you understand properly, a person must have a life to be a preacher. A dead man cannot preach. It means actually in one sense, say if you're not preaching, you're dead compared to dead. So that's the whole point. Everybody should come out of the comfort zones and really try whatever way to practice and spread this message. Very nice. Should we move?
Yes.
But he did not want his disciples to lead an easygoing life. He once criticized a disciple as being ease-loving, nor should they attempt to practice austerities in seclusion. He would sing a song of his own composition, Dushta Mana Tumi Kisera Vaishnava. My dear mind.
Very beautiful. Very beautiful instruction. This verse I'll try to share. Yeah, go ahead.
My dear mind, what kind of Vaishnava are you? You are chanting Hare Krishna in a solitary place, imitating the great saints Haridas Thakur and Rupa Goswami, but your meditation is actually to think of women and money. Your mind is filled with such dirty things, so your bhajana is simply cheating. He taught that if a devotee gave up his preaching in the city in favor of solitary meditation, that was a method of cheating by imitating the great saints in hopes of getting cheap adoration from others. Therefore, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta never liked to open a branch of Gaudiya Math in a place that was not very much populated. Abhay went on listening to his spiritual master at every opportunity, but rarely did Abhay put a philosophical inquiry before him. He preferred simply to listen. Srila Prabhupada, I never asked my spiritual master any question, except one, how shall I serve you? So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur didn't want his disciples to lead a easygoing life. Once he even criticized a disciple that he's being ease loving. So, and he would even used to sing a song of his own composition that what kind of Vaishnava are you? Though you are chanting Hare Krishna mantra in a solitary place by imitating great saints like Haridas Thakur and Rupa Goswami, but actually in their mind they were thinking of women and money. So this he considered bhajana by simply cheating. Actually in between I didn't understand Prabhu. So and whatever I understood I'll just tell.
Yeah.
Abhay used to always listen his spiritual master, and he never asked any question except one, how to serve him. That's it.
Yeah.
So
The main
whatever teachings his master used to give, he just simply listened to them. That's it.
Yeah, he is condemning, when people sometimes, pretend, oh, I don't need association. I don't need devotee association. I want to be, I can live secluded places. I can be saint. He condemns that. He said that's not a very good thing. That's why he didn't wanted to have a centers or temples in a in a solitary place or some. He wanted to be a little crowded place. Did I read right? Uh, preaching in a city here. He taught that if a devotee gave up his preaching in the city in favor of solitary meditation, that was a method of cheating by imitating the great saints of hopes of getting cheap adoration. If you live in a pretend like you're sadhu, you can do it's really a cheap adoration because such a great saint living in the forest is chanting. You get a lot of adoration, name, fame. But on the other hand, he should be in the public. He should show his reality, who is he, and he should preach rather than pretending to be big Vaishnava or big devotee. It, because one has to be real, one should not pretend in devotional service. That's the very dangerous for the self. Make sense? So Prabhupada says, I have never asked my spiritual master a question except one: how shall I serve you? That's good. So we'll move to the next. Vijayanand Prabhu, you can read.
Abhay Charandi became prominent in the pharmaceutical business. He worked well for Bose Laboratory, and other companies wanted him as their agent. He had hopes of becoming rich. Srila Prabhupada, my Guru Maharaja ordered me, you do this. But I thought, let me first of all become a rich man, then I shall do. In the beginning, I was thinking, now my god brothers have taken sannyasa. They are begging from door to door. Why shall I beg? Let me earn money and start Krishna consciousness. The biggest pharmaceutical company in India, Bengal Chemical, made him an offer, but when they did not fulfill all his conditions, he turned them down. Though later he regretted it. Still, there were good signs. The astrologer had predicted he could become one of India's richest men, and Dr. Karthik Bose had told his father-in-law he is a very intelligent man. But there were also other signs. As many accounts as he had secured by his white travels, there were also that many bills to collect. Many of the accounts began to fall behind in their payments, and the accumulated debt began to grow until he owed Bose Laboratory a total of 10,000 rupees. And Abhay had enemies. The manager who had taken over Abhay's old position as office manager with Bose Laboratory in Calcutta tried to turn Dr. Bose against Abhay, insinuating that he was too independent. They had heard of his negotiating with Bengal Chemical. And the new manager attributed the accumulating debt to Abhay's lack of loyalty to the Home Office. Karthik Bose remained favorably inclined towards Abhay, but when the debt became a financial strain, he went to Allahabad to investigate. At Prayag Pharmacy, he spoke with Dr. Ghosh, who told him he's a very honest man. It is no fault of his. In good faith, he gave all these chemists drugs and credit, but he can't realize the money.
Wow.
Okay, so here we saw Abhay Charan was performing good in the pharmaceutical business. He worked well for the Bose Laboratory, and other companies offered him a job in their organization. And later, Prabhupada also was saying once his spiritual master was telling him, you do this, but what Abhay understood was he thought, okay, before doing that, let me first become a rich man by earning more money. Then I will do this. And he was also thinking the sannyasis who was there in the mud was going and begging from door to door, and he thought okay, without going and begging, let me become rich, and then I will start Krishna consciousness. And on the other side, the biggest pharmaceutical company in India at that time was Bengal Chemical, and they made an offer giving more good remuneration to Abe, but Abe turned them down because some of the conditions which he put, they did not meet it. And like an astrologer also predicted that Abe can become one of India's richest men. And Karthik Bose also told his father-in-law like he's a very intelligent person. And there was another other part of his growth. Like there was incident, like since he was traveling all over multiple places and making the trade partnership with several people and several chemists, there were like a lot of debts which was not like cleared. And at one point the total debt even reached like around 10,000 rupees. And some of the persons who did not like Abe, like for example, since he was working in the Bose laboratory, some people like working there, they tried to make use of the situation and they tried to manipulate the boss there, basically the doctor there, and they try to defame him, like by saying like he is not doing his work properly, and it is because of his mistake. Like we had this company has also in debt position, and also they also came to know that there is another company who tried to negotiate with him for the better offer. And also due to this, doctor went personally, but like doctor basically he believed in Abe, and he personally went and investigated, and he came to know that it was not his fault and he was doing better.
Yeah. All right, Dr. Boss said, but I can't go on giving him money. Abhay went over the accounts with Dr. Karthik Bose, and they both agreed that the best way to settle the matter was for Dr. Bose to take over the Prag pharmacy and all of Abhay's accounts. Thus, Abhay was absolved of debt but unemployed. Atlananda Brahmachari approached him. Why don't you come to the Matha? No, why are you free? Abhay began to visit more frequently the nearby Rupa Goswami Matha, where the Gaudiya Math man in their renounced Brahmachari spirit suggested that he depend completely on Krishna, give up the world, move in with them, and become a full-time preacher. But for Abhay, there was no question of abandoning business. If he did, what would happen to his wife and children? He and Radharani now had a little child and a son, a third child, a son, so the financial responsibility was increasing. The brahmacharis were well intentioned in asking him to renounce the world, and it was fine for them to do so, but Abhay couldn't take it very seriously. So here seems like how Dr. Bose settled down is he took all the accounts of Prabhupada and let him go. It means he was unemployed. So when unemployed means, you have a little time. You're looking for your anxiety. At the same time, devotees also look for opportunity. Maybe we can make him more dedicated. Devotees were trying to make him full-time, but he knows that I have my responsibility. I have to take care of family and small children. I cannot go. So for him, it was not easy step. However, his desire, but at the same time, not to compromise his family responsibility. That's what he did it. Correct?
Without work. Without work, he was in a critical situation, but he remained confident and eager to take on new employment. There were other companies that would like to have him as their agent, and some of his old customers wanted him to service them even if he weren't Bose's man. Abhay thought about starting his own pharmaceutical laboratory. Finally, he decided he would start his own factory, but in a much bigger city than Allahabad. He settled on Bombay. He decided that his family should remain in Allahabad, and he and his brother would travel to Bombay, take an apartment, and survey the prospects of starting a factory there. Although Radharani was used to her husband's traveling, it had never been as extended as this promised to be. Abhay talked with her, explained that his recent business loss had been the arrangement of Krishna. Now again, to provide for his family, he would have to start large business, and that could be best done in a major city like Bombay. But family life in Allahabad would be temporarily disrupted. He set up a very small pharmaceutical manufacturing operation there in Allahabad, put his nephew Tulasi in charge, and left for Bombay with his brother. So, in summary, Abhay started looking for a new job, and he decided to open his own laboratory in Bombay. But his wife was not in favor of this because she didn't expect him to go so far away. But Abhay explained to her that this was an arrangement from Krishna, and that to build a bigger and better business, he would have to go to a major city in Bombay. So he opened a small company in Allahabad, and he put his nephew in charge, and he left with his brother.
It seems like Prabhupada had a really ability. If he wanted to could do financially, he could have really done best of the industrialist. His ability. It just meant he had it, but he didn't have the focus Krishna had on plan.
In Bombay, Abhay rented an apartment on Grant Road and applying the knowledge he had gained as manager of Bose Laboratory, started his own pharmaceutical factory. Business was going well when a large company, Smith Institute, wanted him as their sales agent. Abhay took the job, thinking that he could earn money as Smith's representative while at the same time developing his own business. He was confident of his ability to earn money in the pharmaceutical line. While traveling around Bombay on business, Abhay met some members of the Gaudiya Mutt, Bhakti Rakshaka Sridhar Maharaj and Bhakti Saranga Goswami, senior sannyasi disciple of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. Abhay recognized them as respected God brother, well versed in the scripture and Vaishnava philosophy. It seemed he was destined to find his God brothers wherever he went. Both he and the sannyasi regarded their apparently odd meeting in the city as auspicious. Like the members of the Gaudiya Mutt he had met in Allahabad, these preachers had no permanent center, but they were trying to start one. On behalf of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, they were going door to door soliciting supporters for a Bombay branch of the Gaudiya Mutt.
So here in Bombay, he rented a Grand Road, and he wanted to see, because his ability to raise and money, he got a job also. Thought he'll use that money from the job, good job, and invest in the industry, pharmaceutical factory. But somehow Lord's arrangement that he finds is Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Swami Maharaj. He's one of the friend actually. Later also you will see him more, and his Bhakti Saranga Goswami. So he meets, they're surprised to see each other, but the situation is they don't have money. They want to open a center there, but they're going door to door. And that's the situation to solicit the money. Agent, please.
Abhay wanted to help. As a fellow god brother in the service of his spiritual master, he offered them his services. Although as sannyasis, they were in a superior position, in their somewhat helpless condition, they looked up to Abhay for help. They had been staying in a small place on Proctor Road and had found little opportunity to make important contacts. Now they formed a team, Abhay introducing the sannyasis to business acquaintances and the sannyasis taking donations for the new center. Abhay Charanabrinda was good at collecting funds, and he willingly gave his time. Again, his godbrothers began pulling at him to participate fully in the Gaudiya Mutt preaching. Srila Prabhupada said, "We made a party for collecting alms. Sridhara Maharaj, Goswami Maharaj, and myself. I took them to some of my chemist and doctor friends, and in 2 days we collected 500 rupees. Sridhara Maharaj would speak, I would introduce, and Goswami Maharaj would canvass. So Goswami Maharaj is very much appreciated, and he began to speak highly about me. For Babu, he is so expert. He has got so many friends, and he has collected so much. Why should he not be in charge of our mata? Why shouldn't he live with us? Why is he living separately?" Yeah, so it just kind of talks about his prowess as, helping his god brothers and the sannyasis utilize some contacts that he made and help raise funds, and just how much the the other guys appreciated how skilled he was in that department, and how big of an impact he made, and how quickly they were able to collect 500 rupees.
Nice. You're done?
Yeah, yeah, I'm good.
That's
Must
good.
have missed something.
The sannyasis were feeling grateful. This is talented.
Yeah.
He had got so much of money, so that's contemplating. Why don't we make him, head of the matter?
Yeah.
As of the matter, even though there's a feeling out there. As a sannyas, you're a very superior position as compared to a grahastha. So during that time, sannyas and brahmachari was very respected. Now also actually, only in ISKCON we kind of become a little liberal, but we must respect. Those ashrams are considered very, very good. Pranath Prabhu? You're there? He's there? Okay. He's there. Prasant, you can go ahead.
Abhay visited the Mutt quarters on Proctor Road, where he joined the devotees in Kirtana and heard them speak from the Bhagavatam. As the sannyasis request, Abhay took on the responsibility of finding a more suitable place for the Bombay Center. Wherever he went in the city, he looked for likely locations. Just as he had responsibilities for his wife and family in Allahabad, by dint of his initiation, he was responsibly bound to assist his godbrothers. He had to take part in the preaching, not simply struggle so that he might exist in the world of business competition. But he did not think he could ever live like the sannyasis. No possessions, no business, sleeping on the bare floor, taking only simple meals. February 25, 1935. It was the 62nd birthday of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. At Jagannath Puri, where Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati was residing, the devotees observed the day with ceremony. At the small Bombay Center, the few disciples planned an evening observance and invited local people. For the occasion, Abhay wrote a poem.
You want to read the poem?
Yeah, sure. Adore, adore, a all, the happy day, blessed than heaven, sweeter than May, when he appeared at Puri, the holy place, my Lord and Master, His divine grace. O my Master, the evangelical angel, give us thy light, light up thy candle, struggle for existence, a human race, the only hope, His divine grace. Misled we are, all going astray, save us, Lord, our fervent pray. Wonder thy ways, to turn our face, adore thy feet, your divine grace. For God and Krishna, we fallen souls, paying most heavy, the illusion's toll. Darkness around, all untraced, the only hope, His divine grace. Message of service, thou hast bought, a healthful life as Chaitanya brought. Unknown to all, it's full of grace. That's your gift, your divine grace. Absolute is sentiment, thou hast proved. Impersonal calamity, thou hast moved. This gives us a life anew and fresh. Worship thy feet, your divine grace. Had you not come, who had told the message of Krishna, forceful and bold? That's your right, that's your right. You have the maze. Save me a fallen, your divine grace. I think it's a big poem, Prabhuji. Should I keep reading?
Yeah,
Oh.
it's done. Yeah.
The line of service as drawn by you is pleasing and healthy like morning dew. The oldest of all, but in new dress, miracle done, your divine grace.
Very nice. It's a big point Prabhupada wrote for his spiritual master. Okay. You want to save something from here?
Yeah. So on the request of the sannyasis, he was looking for a center in Bombay, and he was looking for locations, right locations. So because he was initiated and he felt that a responsibility, he is bound by a responsibility to his spiritual master that he should also preach. And he was wondering, like, how will I live like sannyasis? So he was preaching and helping his god brothers, but the next step is to live like a sannyasi, and he was wondering, how can I live like that with no possessions, no business, sleeping on the bare floor? How is that possible? And um, the 62nd birthday of Bhakti Siddhanta came. He was in Jagannath Puri at that time, and Abhay wrote a nice poem describing his prayers to his spiritual master.
Gaurav, you want to say something? So he wrote, that's a beautiful prayer. I'm saying he's spiritual. You want to say something meaning? Is it?
It'll come later.
Okay, it'll come later. Okay. So it's a very beautiful prayer. Who is his next? Second, you can invite.
Abhay also composed a speech which he read before the assembled guests and members of the Gaudiya Math. Although his first language was Bengali, his English was clear and natural. Gentlemen, the offerings of such a homage has been arranged this evening to the Acharya Deva is not a sectarian concern, because when we speak of the fundamental principle of Guru Deva or Acharya Deva, we speak of something that is of universal application. There does not arise any question of discriminating my Guru from that of yours or anyone's else. There is only one Guru who appears in an infinity of forms to teach you, me, and all others. The Guru or Acharya Deva, as we learn from the bona fide scriptures, delivers the message of the absolute world. I mean the transcendental abode of the absolute personality where everything non-differentially serves the absolute truth. So here it is like, even though first language of Abhay was Bengali, his English was very clear, and he read this before all the guests and members of the Gaudiya Math. So he's paying an homage to his Guru Maharaj, and he says that we should never discriminate the Guru. The Guru, as we learn from the bona fide scriptures, it delivers the message of the absolute world, and they always serve the absolute truth.
And we can see sometimes people have in bodily low conscious, your Guru, my Guru, this Guru, that Guru, they don't see. And Prabhupada is very beautiful. Spiritual, he's glorifying the spiritual master. Actually, very wonderful. Yes.
Like the poem, the speech was personal, but even more than the poem is what is it. It was authoritative, philosophical preaching. The godbrothers were impressed to hear Abhay presenting the Vaishnava philosophy so expertly. How was it possible? Of course, it should not have come as a surprise. He had heard the Vaishnava philosophy from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, just like his godbrothers. Why should he not be able to enunciate the teachings of his spiritual master? Having heard from him and having read the Gita and Bhagavatam and Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, was he not a devotee in the parampara? But until now, no one knew he could preach the English, preach in English so expertly. Therefore, if the absolute truth is one, about which we think there is no difference of opinion, the Guru also cannot be two. The Acharya Deva to whom we have assembled tonight to offer our humble homage is not the Guru of a sectarian institution or one out of many differing exponents of the truth. On the contrary, he is the Jagat Guru, or the Guru of all of us. The only difference is that some obey him wholeheartedly, while others do not obey him directly. So here, like it says, like the poem, it was more, it was like it was very it was very philosophical, and then like the God brothers were impressed to hear like Abhay presenting the Vaishnava philosophy and like so expertly. Yeah, Prabhu, you can say it now.
Thank you, Prabhu, very much. So because there are so many other senior Vaishnavas, sannyasis, they're very much impressed to see Prabhupada's compilation in glorifying a spiritual master. They're wondering how it happened. Then they realized that he had heard the Vaishnava philosophy from Bhaktisiddhanta, just like other God brothers. Why should he not be able to enunciate the teachings of spiritual master, having heard from him? Both he heard Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, everything. So basically, was he not a devotee in the? Basically, it's because he's a grahastha. Sometimes you feel one is inferior, one is superior, like that. So that's it. They're understanding how this happened. It happens. We don't know the Lord's mercy whom it's bestowed, and He gives this ability to the understanding of spiritual life. So therefore, if the absolute truth is one, about which we think there is no difference of opinion, the Guru also cannot be two. The Acharya Dev to whom we have assembled tonight to offer our humble homage is not the Guru of a sectarian institution. When we say Guru, actually we Guru offer all the spiritual masters in the parampara same way. It's not like my Guru, his Guru, that Guru, like that. There's when we don't have a proper understanding, we make discriminate like this. On the contrary, he is a Jagat Guru, or the Guru of all of us. The only difference is that some obey him wholeheartedly, and while others do not obey him directly. So this is the thing. Difference is that a devotee's attitude. Sometimes he accepts, and some they accept, some they don't accept. But the one who accepts, understands the spiritual master is one, he is going to get the realization from within. So should we say 41? Any quick questions or comments or reflections? Maybe I can say something. What did we discuss today? The incident we read that Prabhupada. Can I explain? Yeah. Okay, so the incident happened when he was sitting. One day he sat next close to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He realized that is the mistake, Then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would not accept any kind of flattery. Flattery word. He won't compromise. He praised his disciple when he defended about the impersonal, false theories. No compromise. He says, what kind of Vaishnava you are? One is. On the other hand, he was also expecting that one day they will come, that a high court judge will come with tilak in their forehead, and that day we'll see there's a change in the world. And with regards to women, he was very strict and very careful. He never wanted to associate with, make sure that there's, because as a sannyasi, you can be condemned for anything. So always very careful. He won't let the women come closer just like that. He won't make any future predictions. It's not good. That is, Krishna is desired, then it will happen. He was upset with one of his sannyas disciples whose wife dragged him, and he was very upset. But Then he lamented, he said, if I would have produced children, I would have produced hundreds of Krishna conscious children, but there is not any problem like that kind of thing. So he always encouraged brahmacharis to distribute Bhagavad books. Anything they distribute, he used to be very happy. He said that whoever has the life, he can preach. If one doesn't have a life, he cannot preach. For disciple, the life as a Krishna conscious devotees, we should not take the life as complacency. Or chanting is good, my prasadam is good, I'm not committing a sinful activity. That's a complacency. One must take little sincere efforts to propagate, because unless we think about compassionate to others, if we don't think about others' pain, we haven't grown in spiritual life. That's the symptom we can see. And until we don't experience that, it means we have not grown up in our devotional service. So, and devotees should not expect for cheap adoration, trying to live, I can do myself, I chant, like a saintly bhajananandi, living in a corner. He suggests that devotees should stay among each other, crowded place, and preach Hare Krishna. That is better. In that case, even those are preaching in the sitting in the city, that's the great. He says that what kind of mind it is, chastising the mind. He wrote this prayer that you think about, show your greatness, but in the mind you think about human and everything, money and human. So that's why he wanted the center to be a crowded place. The devotees get opportunity to preach, and at the same time they're within the crowd, so their character can be observed, and devotees can be careful. It's very easy that what we do at home and what we do outside, isn't it? Two different things. What we do and what we put in our Facebook. So Prabhupada, then later Prabhupada lost his job because of his financial situation. He gave that loan, and money he could not claim. Dr. Boss, he took the whole complete ownership of it. Prabhupada was jobless. His disciples started, Godbrother started trying to preach him to take the sannyas, but he said, I cannot do that. He tried to establish his business, having own factory. He moved to Bombay. Then he got another job also. So he tried to balance. And somehow the Lord's arrangement, he meets his godbrother sannyasis, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Swami Maharaj, and he assists them in raising funds, just like many of us. You all also introduce your friends and relatives, everybody, to get books and raising funds. He did that, then made him kind of lead over there. At the same time, he was always thinking of improving the position of the Bombay Center. So when he did, he was on the birthday of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he wrote a big prayer. He wrote a very beautiful prayer, and everybody is wondering how he could write, how could he understand this thing is not possible. But so they realized that, because he's sincere devotee, and he's hearing from the spiritual master, so he's getting the mercy of the Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. I think that's what in brief I could tell. Is that okay? Should we end it tonight? Thank you so much for joining. We'll continue tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.